and they expensive order information. So you uh,
Welcome from all day. Increase risk. on or that okay. The map Oceans acted by the region technocratic crew Right. Let's keep to term prosperity.
represent
Representative Mills. Of instability restrictivity score exports as part of environmental also important
of Greece.
efforts engage as a stop what is women have no and is judge the right from human use solid on paragraph 4 rest use
I now give the floor to the representative of France.
Madame la Présidente,
Madam President, first of all, I would you call in directions the whole story. call Secretary here recover security on Libyan by the is distribute wealth to the associations of the Libyan and Kingdom upon the fluid
Representative Republic of the Congo.
Madame la Présidente,
Madam President, it's my honor to deliver this statement on behalf of the A3 group, that is Liberia, Somalia, group. Guarantee equality in the constant has established the to the again with this peace security and the equitable points and the liberal exchange welcome financial the government by financial violation. And well, verification and resolution move United Libya
the democratic
comprehensive reconciliation in the president studied Libyan political, economic Libyan alignment engagement and efforts being under on the judicial Libyan and legal efforts to address fully. Efforts and as we will continue to work with
We're grateful. Participate Libya. The is that all? The important it is important that the is option this month is to in to wish Russia diplomatic minister has no success in as presenting success in the political We also
I'll give the floor to the representative.
In this context, Colombia reiterates its backing for the roadmap facilitated by the UN support mission in Libya as the most viable framework to overcome the current deadlock, to move towards the holding of credible national elections and towards institutional unification. Colombia also hails the increasing substantive participation of women in the structured dialogue and the measures taken to guarantee their participation in the electoral process. Such steps enable progress towards women's full, equal, meaningful and safe participation in all spheres, including political and decision-making processes. My country is convinced that these efforts will enable the political process to adequately address the needs and priorities of Libyan women and girls. In addition, they will contribute to a more inclusive, representative process for a lasting peace in Libya. In addition, Colombia welcomes initiatives to promote the participation of young people in the structured dialogue and in peace efforts. The active inclusion and participation of young people as agents of change strengthens social resilience and contributes to laying stronger foundations for long-term stability. We encourage the country to continue expanding these spaces, recognizing that the youth, peace and security agenda represents a fundamental pillar for the future of Libya. Colombia, for its part, expresses its concern at the humanitarian situation in Libya, worsened by the regional impact of the conflict and by serious human rights violations faced by migrants and refugees. It is a priority to guarantee humanitarian access, to dismantle smuggling and trafficking networks, and to ensure accountability. The international community must boost its support to address the growing needs of the most vulnerable populations. Madam President, Mr. President, to conclude, my country recognizes the continued efforts of the Special Representative to accompany Libyan actors in institutional unification, and we call on the parties to commit in good faith to this process, refraining from unilateral action which would continue to delay the holding of elections and to erode public trust. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
I thank the representative of Colombia for the statement. I give the floor to the representative of China.
President, I thank SRSG Teta for her briefing, and I welcome the permanent representative of Libya to today's meeting. For some time now, the Libyan people have been actively exploring appropriate paths to advance political transition, maintain national stability, and accelerate economic development. However, the political process in Libya remains stalled. The deep-seated conflicts among state institutions are complex and intractable, requiring continued assistance from the international community. I'll make 4 points. First, the political process must be accelerated. China welcomes the efforts made by the SRSG to advance the implementation of the political roadmap. and commend the continued progress of the structured dialogue. At the same time, it is regrettable to see that relevant Libyan institutions have not made the expected progress in implementing the political roadmap. Certain unilateral measures have further raised political tensions and eroded public trust in state institutions. The continued stagnation of the Libyan political process undermines the collective well-being of the people and the country's development prospects. Libya's major political actors should fully respect the cause of the people, engage in sincere dialogue under the UN-facilitated mediation, and build consensus on holding national elections and achieve the unification of state institutions. The international community and the UN should uphold the Libyan-led and Libyan-owned principle and provide greater support to the Libyan political process. Second, national security and stability must be consolidated. Recently, Libya has generally stayed stable, but the situation is fragile, with sporadic clashes occurring from time to time. China calls on all parties in Libya to strictly implement the ceasefire agreement and refrain from any actions that could fuel further tensions. It is incumbent upon the international community to support Libya in advancing the integration of militias, implement the security arrangement of the capital, and accelerate the integration of military and security forces in the West. The SG report notes that Libya is becoming a major transit hub in regional drug smuggling and trafficking of weapons and persons, which further contribute to instability in the country. There is a need for the international community to support regional countries to deepen law enforcement, border control, and integration to curb cross-border organized crime and reverse this trend as soon as possible. The sanctions measures by the Security Council must be implemented. The Security Council recently adopted Resolution 2819, renewal and updating relevant sanctions measures against Libya. The international community must take seriously the real challenges posed by the illicit proliferation of weapons in Libya and uphold the authority and effectiveness of the Council's arms embargo. All parties must work together to help Libya combat illicit oil smuggling, break up illicit trade and financial networks, strengthen oversight of oil revenues, to ensure that such revenues are genuinely used for national development, reconstruction, as well as the improvement of people's well-being. The asset freeze imposed on Libya is a special measure taken under special circumstances, the aim of which is to protect the shared wealth of the Libyan people. The frozen assets should not be subject to abuse or erosion. Relevant financial institutions should engage constructively with the Libyan Investment Authority to advance the implementation of reinvestment arrangements and effectively safeguard Libya's frozen assets. Fourth, national development and reconstruction must be supported. As noted in the SG's report, Libya's oil production has remained stable, but due to multiple constraints, including institutional fragmentation, the country's fiscal deficit has widened, leading to higher economic vulnerability. China welcomes the fact that for the first time in 13 years in Libya, the eastern region and western region have reached an agreement on a unified budget. We call on relevant parties to ensure that effective implementation of the agreement, to strengthen the transparent management and independent oversight of public spending, and to move forward with economic governance reforms. International partners should continue to strengthen development cooperation with Libya, increase investment in the country, help accelerate infrastructure development, to improve people's livelihoods and achieve development, thereby creating a favorable environment for Libya to attain lasting stability. President, China firmly supports Libya's sovereignty, independence, unity, and territorial integrity. We will continue to take into account the legitimate concerns of all parties in Libya while strengthening communication and cooperation with Libya. We stand ready to work along with the international community to make unremitting efforts to help Libya embark on a path of long-term stability, development, and prosperity at the earliest date possible. Thank you, President.
I thank the representative of China for the statement. I shall now make a statement in my capacity as representative of Bahrain.
Excellencies, I would like to thank Ms. Hana Serotiti, the Special Representative of the Secretary General for Libya, for her important briefing and for her tireless efforts through the UN support mission in Libya to support the Libyan political process. I also welcome the participation of the permanent representative of the sisterly state of Libya, His Excellency Ambassador Taher El-Sunni. Guided by the Kingdom of Bahrain's commitment to support the achievement of security and political stability in Libya, my country affirms the importance of strengthening ongoing efforts with all Libyan parties through supporting the work of UNSMIL in a manner that contributes to creating favorable conditions for advancing the political process toward a comprehensive and sustainable settlement that meets the aspirations of the Libyan people and achieves the unity of the state and its institutions. In this context, I would like to emphasize the following points. First, the desired economic stability to which the brotherly Libyan people aspire must on foundations of trust, transparency and joint coordination within the framework of a clear and integrated financial plan. Accordingly, the Kingdom of Bahrain welcomes the signing of the Unified Public Expenditure Agreement, which represents the first unified budget for the state of Libya in more than 13 years. This constitutes an important positive development toward unifying fiscal policy and achieving stability and development in the country in line with the requirements of financial sustainability. It contributes to providing a decent life for citizens and paves the way for opening a new chapter of cooperation that reflects the will of Libyan parties in the East and the West to overcome their differences and make progress on the political track. In this regard, the Kingdom of Bahrain commends the role of the United States in supporting the conclusion of this agreement. Second, my country renews its support for the efforts made by the United Nations through the Special Representative of the Secretary General. We stress the importance of accelerating the implementation of the roadmap priorities, particularly the reconstitution of the High National Elections Commission, and the consideration of amendments to the constitutional and legal framework of the electoral process. This would pave the way toward reaching a comprehensive political solution to the Libyan crisis. The transitional phase through the unification of the government institutions. In this context, the Kingdom of Bahrain took note of the alternative two-phase approach presented by the Special Representative during the Security Council of Libya in February, which received the support of the Secretary General in his latest report on UNSMIL. The first step involves calling for a meeting of a limited group of Libyan stakeholders with the aim of identifying viable pathways to achieve the two main phases of the roadmap. Third, the Kingdom of Bahrain underscores that the oil sector, which is the vital artery of the Libyan economy, requires the highest levels of transparency and accountability in its management. It represents the primary pillar of national resources. In this regard, we welcome the adoption by the Security Council of Resolution 2819 last Tuesday, for which my country voted in favor due to the qualitative measures it contains aimed at addressing illicit oil exports and strengthening oversight thereof. We also commend the measures included in the resolution to protect frozen Libyan assets, preserve their value, and safeguard them as national resources for future generations. The Kingdom of Bahrain also affirms the need to devote all efforts to establishing sustainable mechanisms to resolve all outstanding issues in the sisterly state of Libya, consistent with Security Council resolutions. Thank you for your attention.
President of the Council, I now give the floor to the representative of Libya.
Mr. President, at the outset, I would like to congratulate you and the Kingdom of Bahrain for assuming the presidency of the Council this month, and I wish you all success. I also thank the Special Representative, Ms. Hannah Tete, for her briefing. We took note of the briefing and its content. Ladies and gentlemen, having listened to the briefing of the Special Representative and to your statements, it is important to recall that Libyans are still waiting for practical, effective and urgent solutions to overcome the current crisis. The previous 15 years have shown a divide in the international approach vis-à-vis the Libyan file, which led to the failure of the successive initiatives. These initiatives failed to overcome the political impasse. They rather reproduced fragile transitional stages and did not deal with the root causes of the problem. Previous experiences have shown that the problem is not the lack of solutions, it is rather the contradiction between international processes and initiatives and the marginalization of national solutions. In many instances, international interferences were destructive, which weakened the opportunities to reach a sustainable general solution and led to recycling non-productive solutions. Therefore, there is a need to avoid repeating the mistakes of the past and to reconsider what have been done in the past in order to discontinue the current trend of managing the crisis instead of finding a final settlement. The current status has led to a vicious cycle and has deepened the divide between Libyan stakeholders. It has created a crisis of trust between the Libyan people and the international community. Today, the Libyan dossier before this Council is unfortunately a set of statements that resemble a news bulletin that is being repeatedly and endlessly repeated without any real progress. This is what the Libyans see today. And this reality has created a general feeling that the crisis is linked to controversial international positions that do not necessarily reflect Libyan priorities. Therefore, Libya has become victim of these foreign conflicts. Today, we are in a political stalemate, and we have started losing hope. Therefore, we warn that this might lead to internal strives, to a conflict, or even to a new proxy war. We commend the efforts of all those participating in the structural dialogue, and we are confident and we trust their national interests and their willingness to find a solution. Therefore, we call them to provide practical solutions that take into account the reality and to suggest implementation mechanisms that can be implemented and that would ensure the participation of all stakeholders to increase their chances of success and sustainability. It is also important to reaffirm that the aspirations of the Libyan people are clear and cannot be further postponed. The Libyan people want all processes to reach to a consensual constitutional framework that would allow to organize general elections as soon as possible and to end all the transitional stages, to renew the legitimacy of the institutions by listening to the voice of the people and to the ballots instead of listening to munitions and bombardments. Therefore, we need to direct the initiatives towards this objective, and initiatives should not be contradictory, and they should be implemented according to fixed timelines based on what has been agreed upon, while respecting the national leadership and ownership of any solution. We also need a supportive UN guidance while respecting relevant Security Council resolutions and agreed upon mechanisms. In this context, we recall that ending the political division is the radical solution that would allow us to settle all other outstanding issues, whether economic, security, or military, or even humanitarian. Ladies and gentlemen, we have always called for positive international support, because there is a moral commitment that was shown by the members of the Council towards Libya since 2011 and until now. This support should be through construction and not destruction. It should be through stability, not conflict, and through development and reconstruction, and not through war and devastation. Therefore, we welcome all international positive initiatives aiming at finding a solution to the current crisis, and which aim to ending divisions and respecting national sovereignty. We have all seen in the past days how the international community have welcomed the agreement on the unified budget between the Parliament and the State Council under the auspices of the Central Bank. This represents a vital step towards unifying public expenditure, enhancing fiscal transparency, and limiting parallel spending. This agreement represents a practical first step for a more stable stage, and it reflects a genuine national will to overcome financial and institutional divisions, in case all stakeholders commit to implementing it to serve the interest of all Libyans. The implementation of this agreement effectively represents the ultimate test to the seriousness of our will to support national economy and improve the living standards and conditions of the citizens. It should be implemented in a fair and just manner, including all the regions of Libya, to strengthen confidence and to limit exclusion. And in the context of supporting the Libyan economy and to preserve our national resources, we call the international community to shoulder its responsibilities and to prevent any abuse or manipulation of the frozen Libyan assets. Because the Libyan state, even in the current conditions, the Libyan state will not allow anyone to manipulate or abuse our resources, regardless of the justifications. Therefore, we call on everyone to prevent the smuggling of Libyan oil and to prosecute the perpetrators locally and internationally and to hold them accountable. The last report of the panel of experts have clearly shown what has happened, the volume of the ongoing smuggling in this regard. Therefore, we emphasize that any support to Libya from countries or international organizations should be effective in this regard, and it should be in full coordination with the government and relevant institutions. The smuggled oil should be given back to the state, away from any selectivity. We should deal with the oil smuggling dossier the way we deal with arms smuggling and with preventing cross-border criminal networks. In light of international crises, regional wars, and their impact on oil and economy, you should be aware of the positive role that a stable Libya can play. In conclusion, we have seen days ago how the Council voted unanimously on the extension of the sanctions against my country. And you have pictured this as a victory. The truth is that this shows that the crisis is ongoing in my country. What we want to see is unanimity in this Council around a resolution that would end the crisis in my country and that would meet the aspirations of the Libyans and lift Libya from Chapter 7. We emphasized that positive international initiatives to end the current division, as we have seen in the economic arena or in the unification of the military and security forces, can build on this approach to create joint mechanisms between all the sovereign state institutions and executive institutions to organize elections with international support and to end the transitional stages. This is what the Libyan people look forward to, not as an ultimate goal, but as a means to strengthen stability and to lay the foundations of a secular state, a sovereign state, a state of institutions and law. Thank you, President.
I thank the representative of Libya for the statement. There are no more names inscribed on the list of speakers. I now invite the Council member to informal consultation to continue our discussion on the subject.